Welcome back, everyone. We are First Seed Sports, Dante, Mike, Kyle, and Zach. And here is our start and sits for week number 4. Week 3, we hit some on the head. We missed on a couple. Happens every week, but, that's the nature of the game. So without further ado, let's get into our week 4 starts and sits. I'm going to kick it off with Kyle. Who is your start of the week?
Going all Detroit Lion, TJ Hawkinson. They're facing the New Orleans Saints, and they are currently giving up the highest percentage of team targets and yardage to the tight end position. They've also consistently had a tight end score on them these past 3 weeks and given up 4 total touchdowns. Hawkinson is sitting at the tight end 9 in PPR leagues, and he had a okay 9.3 points last week. But I think he smashes this week with great catches and a couple touchdowns. I can guarantee that.
Mike, what do you think?
I like it. I like the start of the week. I think he scores a little bit above his average this week with Golladay coming back. I think it should open up the field for him a little bit. And like Kyle mentioned, the Saints do give up a lot of points to tight ends. So I expect a big game from Hawkinson this week.
All right, Dante?
Yeah, I mean, when Kyle brought up the fact that they're giving the most points to tight ends, I can pretty much seal the deal, That pretty much be a lock for me. I think with Hawkinson and Stafford, that connection is there, and it's going to have a lot of opportunities for him to get a lot of points.
I think it's really hard to ignore Hawkinson's athletic ability. At the tight end position, you just don't see that type of a receiver very often, and it's really, to me, reminiscent of early age Gronk. That's kind of what I see in Hawkinson a little bit. I know that might be a bit of an overreach, but I really think that he is that special. And as Mike mentioned, with Kenny Golladay coming back and with the field stretching ability of Marvin Jones, I like that to open up the field for TJ Hawkinson over the middle. So, Kyle, I like the start. And we'll move on here. Mike, who is your start of the week?
Yeah, so I'm sticking with tight ends. My start of the week is Jonnu Smith, currently sitting at the number 2 PPR tight end.
All right, I'll go ahead and give you guys my start of the week here next. It is going to be David Johnson. Now, David Johnson has been a player on my team personally, and that's kind of why I have such an inside viewpoint on him, I guess, so to speak. And he's actually ridden the bench for me the last 2 weeks. The Texans have opened with an absolutely brutal schedule. They opened with the Chiefs, the Ravens, and then the Steelers. And it's finally starting to get a little bit easier for them this week. They play a weak Minnesota defense that has just been absolutely gashed by running backs this season. For instance, Aaron Jones tore them a new one in week 1. And just this past week, Jonathan Taylor went over 100 yards and had a touchdown. So, and I think that David Johnson is actually still a pretty good runner, especially between the tackles. So I look forward to him having at least somewhere in the 14, 15-point range game this week, if not more.
Yeah, I would even bet a little bit more points from David Johnson. It feels like this whole Texans offense has been held back, especially these past 2 weeks against Baltimore and Pittsburgh. And I feel like they're just going to explode, especially against a weak defense like Minnesota. And I think David Johnson definitely benefits from that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'll go off of that. I think David Johnson and the volume he sees, I believe that right now he is in the top 5 running backs in snap share and touch percentage. And I just think with that volume against a defense that has shown that they're pretty vulnerable to volume running backs, I think that he's going to score way above his average this week, and he's a solid start.
Yeah, going off that, I think David Johnson, I think the way the Texans have utilized him in the first couple of games is that they like to use him for game control, for like time management. So I think that even regardless if they're up in the game, they're going to utilize David Johnson to make sure they hold the ball for longer durations. So in that respect, he's going to get a lot of touches there. And the fact that they're just a poor run defensive team is going to give him more opportunities too. So,
It's funny. I always get to listen to you three guys, and you just convince me more, even more into my own starts of the week. I think that with what Dante mentioned, they're going to want to hold on to the ball they're in this game. I think we saw last week what Minnesota's offense can do. I think Minnesota's starting to realize what their offense can do with Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen and Dalvin Cook. They can score when they want to. So I think that the Texans are going to play time of possession. The other thing that I wanted to mention is that just if you are in a league where there is someone looking to sell, David Johnson looking to sell, Deshaun Watson, now is a great time to buy low on these guys because their schedule is as hard as it was going to be early on in the season. So just a little 2 cents there. That's somewhere maybe to look for some potential trade targets. Okay, we'll move on. Dante, who is your start of the week?
My start is going to be Mike Davis, Carolina Panthers. Last week he had 13 carries, 46 yards, 8 catches for 45 yards and a touchdown. It's clear that Bridgewater likes to throw them to Davis when there's no other options, just from watching the game. And the way to utilize their offense, they kind of use the running back to the safety blanket. That's why McCaffrey also got as many touches as he had. ESPN has him ranked 24th ahead of Joe Mixon and Mark Ingram. I don't know if anyone else was expecting, at least Joe Mixon to be performing a little bit better. But, yeah, Mike Davis, I got to roll with him just based on him being utilized in that offense. He's going against the Cardinals, and the Cardinals have a pretty stifling passing defense. So I think in regards to that, there's going to be a lot more checkdowns and a lot more of him just having the ball for carries as well in terms of running it. So, yeah, Mike Davis.
I totally agree. It was weird coming off of this first week without Christian McCaffrey. We didn't know truly if Mike Davis was going to take over that role, and he definitely did. And surprisingly, he had 8 targets in week 2 and then another 9 this past week. And those alone in PPR leagues are insanely valuable. So I'm with you. I'm starting.
Yeah, Mike Davis, PPR fiend, man. Just the volume he sees in the passing game is insane. I also picked him up about 2 weeks ago when I heard about McCaffrey's injury. So I'm all on board with him. I think as long as McCaffrey's out, he's a must-play in all PPR lineups and possibly even standard lineups. He's definitely a must-start.
One thing to know as well is that, he's not like a solidified starter. He's not going to be someone down the line that's going to be starting. But as for right now, this is great for any owner that has like James Conner or like Derrick Henry, and they can't really afford to wait until potentially like Tuesday or whatnot to get those points. So I think Mike Davis is a viable option in that sense too.
Quite honestly, I really don't have a lot to add. I think you guys hit the nail on the head. I do think it's you shouldn't underestimate Davis's running potential either. Last week, a very old and I don't necessarily know if I want to say done. Adrian Peterson ran the ball for 22 yards, he ran the ball 22 times for 75 yards against this Cardinals defense. So that's not something to overlook either. He was 3/4 of the way to the century mark. So that's a pretty substantial amount of yards. Okay, so let's flip to the other side of the script. Let's take a look at our sits of the week. Kyle, take the lead here. Who do you have as your sit of the week?
Going with the Dolphins running back, Myles Gaskin. He's been emerging as a solid flex or RB2 player. He's consistently had 14 points these past 2 weeks. But I think this game script against Seattle this coming week is going to hurt him. Against Buffalo and the Jaguars, they were in positive game scripts, or at least matched game scripts, where they were able to run the ball, and he succeeded. But Seattle has the second best running back defense in the league currently, at least in fantasy points. And I think they shut him down, and Miami will be just forced to throw the ball a lot more, and he can just be quiet this whole game.
Yeah, I'm also I'm on board with that. I don't think that he does anything above what he's projected right now. I just think that, like Kyle said, the past few weeks have been really really molded around him to strive. And I just think in this game with Seattle having a great run defense, I expect to see more of Jordan Howard in the game, and just Howard being on the field and taking away his goal line carries in general. I would also sit Gaskin this week.
As much as you want to, I mean, you're not wrong, right? See how this has. But I would make an argument that the fact that they have so many injuries, especially this past week alone, that could play a factor into that defense a little bit. But that'd be just me playing devil's advocate, and I think the Seahawks, I mean, they're my Hawks. I think they're gonna demolish the Dolphins. So it's gonna be they're gonna be forced to throw at some point. And even though our defense and Seattle's defense might be hobbled, it's still good enough, I think, to stop the Dolphins.
Yeah, I think while I'm definitely tempering my expectations here a little bit with Myles Gaskin being a rookie, I am going to actually look at the positive side of Myles Gaskin. I think he is still going to have some solid upside this week. I think that he provides a very safe floor with his receiving, and in that he is tallied 4 receptions in week 1, 7 in week 2. I'm sorry, these are targets. 4 targets in week 1, 7 targets in week 2, and 5 targets last week. So just that reception floor alone gives him a pretty safe PPR base, I think. Okay, so before we move on to our next person, I just want to address something real quick. Obviously, we're struggling with some technical difficulties. Kyle got kicked due to some Wi-Fi issues. You can see Dante's being a little he's struggling, fighting a little bit of lag and some slow Wi-Fi. So thank you for bearing with us. Obviously, we're trying to make the most out of a bad situation here. But all right, so let's keep moving on. We got through Kyle's sit of the week, so I guess that was perfect timing. Mike, why don't you give me your sit of the week?
Yeah, cool. So I'm going to go ahead and sit every single Buccaneers running back this week. They have a matchup against the Chargers this week, and I'm just going to read you off some stat lines of what the Chargers have given up to running back so far. Week 1, 19 carries, 69 yards with a 3.6 average to Mixon. Week 2, 10 carries, 38 yards with a 3.8 average to Clyde Edwards-Helaire. And last week, 13 carries, 46 yards with a 3.5 average to Davis. The yards per carry is really standing out to me. It's pretty much the same in all games. And the one other stat that stands out to me is that all of those games were one-score games. So I really do expect this game to be a very close game with the Buccaneers. I think the time of possession is going to be a little bit thinner for the Chargers this week and the Buccaneers as well. I think it's a little bit more even, I should say. So I would go ahead and even with the on and off snap percentages between Fournette and Jones and Dare, I think those snap percentages are just too unpredictable. I'm staying away from all Buccaneers running backs this week. Yeah,
until there's a even slight consistency in that backfield, I'm not touching any of them. They all have great potential. Ronald Jones, Leonard Fournette, they could all smash any given week, but it's like, do I dare get the 30 points from this running back or wind up getting the 2 points that I could inevitably get? And I don't want to take that risk at all.
I was going to say, when you're in fantasy football, you want to take as least amount of risk as possible. And with the Tampa Bay backfield, I mean, who knows who can go off? Like Kyle alluded to, they have so much talent back there. Anyone could have a game any week. Given the fact that it's the Chargers, they're going to, if anything, it's going to be a Tom Brady management game. They'll probably throw like 40 to 50 times, just like, slant routes, like 5-yard passes to move the offense instead of running it. That's kind of how I see that offense rolling. I stick away from the Bucs running backs.
So I just want to give a point for and a point against, I suppose. I guess I'm feeling like the contrarian today since I'm countering all of you guys. But I think a point for is that I'm a little bit sick of the Buccaneers backfield where we're playing this guessing game of who's going to be the starter. 2 weeks ago we had that game from Leonard Fournette where he put up 27 points or something like that. The week before that we had Ronald Jones go for 15 or 16 points. And I'm just over it, quite frankly. And I don't think that I want to play that game anymore. So I'm all aboard on the sit train with that one. But on my other side, the Chargers actually just lost Melvin Ingram to a couple week injury here. So he's going to be missing, and he's been a centerpiece of that defense for so many years now. Obviously, like Mike said last week, they were okay without him, but I still think that makes their defensive line a little bit softer at its core than it usually is. So those are just my 2 points there. I think I'm still more so on board with you, Mike, and I'm sitting them this week. So, all right. So I'm actually going to hop over on the other side of this game, and I'm going to talk about Justin Herbert. And he is going to be my sit of the week for week 4. So Justin Herbert is clearly a running quarterback. I think we've all seen that. He's put on some nasty truck sticks in the first couple weeks, and he for you guys who are local and who watch us, he quite frankly reminds me of Jake Cirillo, if you know who that is. And Jake is just a big body quarterback who likes to run the ball and likes to run people over. He seeks out contact, and that's what I see from Herbert. But with that being said, I think that this week against a Carolina defense that was pretty stingy against the run last week, as Mike mentioned, I'm sorry, Mike didn't mention that. He mentioned that the Carolina running backs had a tough time against the Chargers last week. Sorry. But I just lost my train of thought. I'm sorry. Regardless, okay, he's going up against the Tampa Bay defense. That's going to be really, really difficult. They have Shaq Barrett really sealing up that front, not to mention guys like Ndamukong Suh and Jason Pierre-Paul. And there's actually a rookie who I've loved watching the first couple weeks, Antoine Winfield Jr. He is a safety rover combination for the Buccaneers, and he's just been wreaking havoc all over. So if you guys get a chance, I would recommend watching that defense and just keying him. He's number 31 for the Buccaneers. He's just been a menace. I think he's had an interception already, and he's got a bunch of sacks. He's playing like a man. I like what he's doing right now. So I think he's going to give Herbert some fits.
Yeah, I see Herbert having a definite tough time this week. You're right. The Tampa Bay defense is pretty solid. To be fair, they've seen some kind of weak quarterbacks, but Herbert could be one of those weak quarterbacks this week. Just looking at the waiver wire, there's a few guys I would start over Herbert. Ryan Fitzpatrick against Seattle, Phillip Rivers, Nick Foles, I would honestly take a shot over him. There are other options that are most likely available, and I'm not taking the risk on Herbert this week either.
Yeah, I like that you mentioned that, Kyle. I think there are a lot of other quarterbacks out there that are viable options rather than Herbert. If you guys have been keeping up with us, most of us here are big Herbert fans. We're big believers in him, and I think he'll have a successful career. But as for this week, I think with Tampa Bay's defense, like Zach mentioned, I think it's going to be a tough week for him. If anything this week, I see an upside for Austin Eckler, who should catch a ton of passes out of the backfield this week. I believe that he caught somewhere near 9 to 11 last week, something like that. So I expect it to be in that range again. So big upside for Eckler, but I think Herbert struggles a little bit this week. And I think, like Kyle said, there's other options out there.
Yeah, not much to add from my point. I agree with all you guys. It's just not even the fact of Herbert's ability. It's mainly because there's so many other quarterbacks with better options. Like Ryan Fitzpatrick is easily on the waiver wire that you can pick up that has a better opportunity to score more. I think with Herbert, he has potential. He's very talented, but he's still pretty young into the game, and he's prone to make a couple of mistakes against a good defense. And so to eliminate those chances and those opportunities happening, I think it's in your best interest to go for someone like Nick Foles or Ryan Fitzpatrick.
Mike, you really hit the nail on the head. Eckler had 11 receptions last week. So between Eckler and Keenan Allen, they racked up 30 total targets, which is kind of kind of insane for two players to have that many targets. And just the other thing I wanted to add on it, I went blank in the middle of when I was talking before, but I just wanted to say that he looked like a rookie last week. I think that having the whole week to prepare and having the whole week to kind of overthink a little bit actually didn't work to his benefit. I think it worked against him. Whereas in the game against now I'm going to go blank again.
Kansas City.
Was it Kansas City? Oh, yeah, it was. In the game against Kansas City, he was playing completely like fluidly and wasn't overthinking the game at all. So, okay. So let's move on. Our last sit of the week is going to be Dante's. Dante, who do you have?
So my sit is going to be Mike Williams. Mike Williams is kind of an enigma because he has done to be if he played as well as he actually did, but he doesn't. Last week, he had one catch for 17 yards. In the past 3 weeks, he's had 16 points total. Plain and simple, Herbert's just not looking at him. He's a deep threat wide receiver. As Mike alluded to before we recorded, Herbert's just not a deep threat. He doesn't feel comfortable throwing deep threat balls yet. So that alone is a reason to stay away from Mike. He's real boomer bust just based on the fact that he's deep threat as well. Being the fact that he can get, 15 points on a catch, and that could be, his best week of the year. So because of that, I say stick away from Mike Williams.
Yeah, I mean, we saw a week against Carolina where Keenan Allen saw 19 targets, which was a league high this season among anybody receiving targets, and that is insane. So it's very clear Herbert has a favorite target, and it is definitely not Mike Williams, and Mike Williams is seeing nothing. It's almost like if we're sitting Herbert, we're sitting Mike Williams, and Mike Williams is honestly probably dropped by this point. Yeah, I'm not happy with his production lately.
Yeah, as Kyle said, I'm in a few leagues, and even our league that I'm in with Kyle and Zach. Mike Williams was dropped. I think that he is a big drop candidate, and I just don't see him having a great year. He might have a week here and there, depending on the game plan, depending on who's covering him in one-on-one situations. But Herbert, he's not really taking those one-on-one deep ball shots. So until I see something otherwise, I think Mike Williams is a indefinite sit for the rest of the year.
Agreed. That's about all I have. I believe in the talent of Mike Williams. I think that he could go elsewhere and be a number 2, if not a number 1 receiver, but it's not happening in Los Angeles, especially in Justin Herbert's Los Angeles. So, all right, gentlemen. Well, we made it through 4 starts, 4 sits, and that we're here. So any questions, any comments, any concerns?
None for me.
Go Hawks.
Here.
All right. Well, enjoy the football. It is week 4. We are looking forward to the Thursday night matchup. We are recording on Wednesday right now, so we're looking forward to the the old someone's got to win game between the Broncos and the Jets tomorrow night. So it should be interesting. We'll see what we get. But aside from that, thanks for watching. As always, Kyle, Mike, Dante, and Zach. We're 4th Seed Sports. Have a great day.